Thank you. Greg, first question.
You were nominated.
Right, exactly. It's been about 4 months since your knee surgery. Just kind of wanted to get a health update, how you're feeling, that type of thing.
Probably really well. The problem is I listened to those people that said, oh, I played golf in 6 months after it happened. And I said, well, I'm going to do it in 5, you know, that kind of bad attitude. But we've had 6 full practices. I haven't hurt anything like I did last year. First 42 years of my life as a coach, I never sat down on a basketball court one time. And last year I was sitting down about every 15 or 20 minutes for, as Marcus said, for 30 seconds at a time. And so far this year, I haven't sat down except during water break. And it does feel better. It's been a long process. It's May 27th till right now, so you're getting close to 4.5 months. I started playing golf again August the 11th. Been able to played 36, just one day. And it's not like a typical time for me, but no, it keeps getting a little bit better and a little bit better, but I haven't had that scenario where everybody says, oh gosh, you'll wish you had done it 2 years before. I haven't been on that boat yet, okay, but it is better and it's enabling me to do my job a lot more fun. Except for my golf game stunk when I did play.
Roy, picking up from the end of last year, speaking of that, did you have to go through a grieving process to kind of move past what happened at the end of last year emotionally?
I go through a grieving process every year, you know. So last year, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but last year was a little different because you get so close, and you have a kid that makes a shot that would have gone down as maybe the most famous shot in Carolina history if we'd have gotten into overtime and won. And so there is some grieving because it's so close, but no cigar kind of thing. But I go through the same thing every year. It didn't hurt anymore because you also have the satisfaction of 351 teams start playing and you were one of the last 2 that played. And I know that we win 10 games in a row down the stretch, win the regular season, win the conference tournament, make it to the national championship game. I'm not one of those guys that I saw a guy one time that said we don't play for second place and told how he smashed the second place trophy from his team, and I thought how sick that was. So that's never been me. I thought we had a great year, but it's just like somebody pulls your heart out and taunts you by shaking in front of you, but you got to get over it.
I know. Does it replay at all? I mean, did you think
no. I have not watched the game. I may never. I did watch the last play because SportsCenter did something special on it, and you know, he came down and made it about 6 out of 10 times. But I was pleased at that moment, pleased with how we guarded it. We needed to be a little more involved, all 5 guys, but sometimes you just have to congratulate the other team and say they made a big shot.
Have you found yourself replaying any segments of the game or moments of the game in your mind? Is it something you have to fight off or what?
No. Nobody hurt like me and those guys in the locker room, but no, I don't spend my life awake at night wishing I'd done this or done that, even after wins or losses, either one. But it hurt, and it hurt us more than anybody ever. But at the same time, you got to go on with your life and realize what you did accomplish, and we reached every one of our goals except one. And that's a pretty good year.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, Roy, a lot of the guys on the social media, right before the start of practice and everything, kind of showed, like Theo showed a picture from him in the locker room with a towel over his head, kind of like they're embracing the hurt from that moment and they're using that. How do you kind of view that? Is it something that you want to, it's done, it's over with, this is a new season, let's go, or is it, hey, remember that, and kind of like Bobby Frazier, let's remember that and feed off of that?
No, I think I told him in the locker room, let's use this as fuel to work harder in the offseason. Let's use this as fuel to motivate. Use this as fuel to put in that extra time, to know that we were that close, but we didn't get what we wanted. And I'm sure I'll use it sometimes, and I've already used it once this year. I said, hey, well, guys, Coach Pitino's big comment about Larry Bird and Kevin McHale not walking in that locker room. I told him, I said, guys, Bryce is the best rebounder in the ACC. Look around. Does anybody see Bryce out here? You know, so I've used some references like that, but it's more to focus and to build on what we're doing. And you know, I've said it many times. You guys have heard it so many times. You're tired of hearing it. I have more desire and more motivation in my little finger than anybody I've ever known in my life. But I'm darn sure not going to go home and jump off the top of the building because their kid made a big-time play. And as I said, we reached every goal we set except one. And you go ahead and make 5 goals for this year yourself, or make 10, whatever you make. And at the end of the year, if you say you read every one of them except one, regardless of how big that is. Now, the magnitude of it doesn't make it, yeah, we wanted to beat Temple in the first game. That was one of our goals. But the magnitude of the last one is far, far superior to that. But it was a pretty doggone good year.
What do you think might give you that production that Bryce gave you and that leadership that Marcus gave?
That's 2 big questions for us right now. Because as I said, I did talk to him about the rebound and the basketball. The scoring that Bryce gave was really something, 39 in one game, for example. But his rebounding and the block shots perhaps were even more important. And how do you say that something's more important than 39 points in a game? You can't really say that. But Isaiah, Kennedy, they've got to really step up and do some better things. Luke's got to step up. And Tony Bradley's got to give us some of those enthusiastic young moments of where he can produce against big-time teams. And in Marcus, the leadership, it was really unique because he was, for 4 years, you could make statements about whether he was our best player or second best player all 4 years. And so to be able to do it by example, but everybody trusted Marcus so much. I made reference one game where somebody sort of scolded him during a timeout. And he said, okay, he said, my mistake. He didn't say my bad because he knows how I hate that. He said, I should have done better. And then I look at it on tape and it was completely wrong. But he handled it well. If it had been me, somebody told me something like that and I knew that I had screwed it up that they had, I'd have gone back at them. And 90% of the people on my team would have. And so I use that as an example to everybody else because one of his teammates said something and it was completely wrong. But he handled it gracefully and everybody had so much respect for him. All right, so how do you get that respect is being able to handle tough situations. Be able to go 1 for 22 or whatever it was in that bad stretch and to be able to step back and still have the confidence of everybody on our team. And if you erase that, was that close, wasn't it 1 for 22 or something crazy? Something like that. And you erase that and he's probably a 40% 3-point shooter all year. But he just kept having the confidence it was going to go in, and they fed off of that. His toughness of being willing to make the last shot, his toughness of not playing very well at Duke, but being able to go to the free throw line and make the 2 free throws at the end that iced the game. That's something that has to be earned. I think Nate, Isaiah, and Kennedy have done a nice job of leading us so far, but the good thing about it is they have 3 guys right behind that group that have those leadership qualities too, and Theo and Justin and Joel, and particularly Joel because the play that the way he performed last year.
With Marcus and Bryce, have you found yourself missing even little things about them? Obviously, you're going to miss the points and the big shots and all that, but just little day-to-day things.
Oh yes, I missed everything about him. Even Bryson, I stayed on his case probably harder than anybody I've ever coached. But on game nights, Sucker played. You think about it, the most points scored in any ACC game last year was 39. That was Bryce. Most rebounds was 23. That was Bryce. Most block shot was 8. That was Bryce. If you don't miss that, I'm saying that I'm not laying awake at night worrying about that last game, and I'm not. But I do miss those guys a great deal because when I walked out on the court and saw those 2 guys out there, I felt better immediately because they had proven that they could play. And as the course of the season went on last year, I even felt even better because of the way Bryce was doing it on game nights.
Roy, in college basketball these days, teams don't usually get to the championship game and return a whole nucleus of juniors and seniors the way you did. How far ahead of the game does that put you, having that many returning guys that know how to do things, that know you, and as opposed to having to start over from scratch with a whole new roster like a lot of teams do?
Well, we've been going for about 10 minutes. I haven't made a golf reference yet, so you guys know it's overdue. But 30 years ago, the United States Ryder Cup team, when they lost Arnold and Jack, that wasn't just 2 guys. Bryce and Marcus is not just 2 bodies for us. They were our 2 best players, the best defender, the best outside scorer, the best inside scorer, the best rebounder, the guy that dominated things inside around the rim on the defensive end. Those other guys, as I've said many times and will be saying for many times, they've really got to step up, because it's not just 2 out of 2 out of 8. It's your 2 best. And markedly, you could say maybe the 2 best in every part of the game. And so it's not just a numbers game. You know, when Tiger and Phil were the best, if all of a sudden they weren't available for the Ryder Cup, that would have been a big loss for the team. So those 6 guys who, almost all, I'm sure all of them, were in the games at crunch time. So I think that's really going to help them. But now they've got to step up there when the defense is aimed at them. And you guys have heard me say that before. My high school coach sits close to the Louisville bench, and 2 years ago, Rick has kept yelling, "Number 5, number 5, number 5." You know, and everybody had to know where number 5 was, and that was a game he ended up making the layup to win the game. But nobody was yelling, "Watch Theo." Nobody was yelling, "Watch Kennedy." Nobody was yelling anything like that. So that's a huge difference in basketball. I've regressed in some, but I've said many times to my close friends, Brad Daugherty will never be classified as one of the 5 best players to ever play here. But he had to be one of the 5 most productive. Because every game before the other team left the locker room, we got to do a great job on Daugherty. And he led the nation in field goal percentage, 13 for 13 against UCLA, I think it was. So that's what you've got to be able to do when the defense is aimed at you. Tyler Hansbrough, they did everything to stop him. And so that's where these guys got to take their step.
Do you expect Theo to move into that 2 spot?
Have no idea. I'm being very honest. Yeah. I've switched it around every day in practice between Kenny, Theo. Today I think I've got Joel, or maybe it's yesterday, Joel playing there with the 7th. I've switched it around every day, and I really never make those kind of decisions. And I think most times you guys have asked me the day before a game, and I'm still wondering if something's going to happen at practice that day. But the most experienced guys would put Theo as one of those 5, I would imagine, anyway, on the perimeter.
The players you were just talking about, when the other team has to look for a certain guy, you have a few guys that might be close to that. Do you think that Joel, maybe
Joel
Justin,
last year,
Isaiah?
I think last year, late in the season, particularly ACC tournament, was he not the MVP of the ACC tournament? So, but the coaches would say something, but I guarantee if anybody had run off Marcus Pace to guard Joel, the coach would have been ticked. You know, I mean, I was coaching one time, and the other coach came down to the bench, said, "Roy, I promise you, I told him not to leave him." I had Steve Woodbury and Calvin Rayford, and Woodbury made 5 threes in the first half. In the first play of the second half, a guy runs off Steve to guard Calvin Rayford. And I mean, Calvin was a fantastic young man, but he couldn't shoot a lick. And the guy running, Joey Meyer goes, "I promise you, I told him not to run off Woodbury." I mean, nobody left Marcus Pace to go guard Joel last year.
I know it's early, but how have the freshmen adjusted so far?
I think okay. You know, it remains to be seen. You know, everybody's got a great attitude the first week. 351 teams, everybody's all in the first week. And how do you handle adversity? How do you handle mistakes? How do you handle the little aches and pains? The adversity they're going to handle, because how difficult it is. Because freshmen, they were all, you know, king of the castle, and they're not now. But they've really had a good attitude and really done some nice things. They really have, and I think all of them will have a chance to play for us.
Roy, what kind of shape is Meeks in?
Good, not great. I think that he's continued to work on his body, which is the hardest thing to do. So he's got to be able to do it on game time now. And I think if he does that, then he can really take that step up. But I'd say he's been playing well, not great, but been playing well in practice. And you'll get a chance to see him today if you can't find anything better to do.
How much of a struggle has that been for him over the last 4 years to keep the weight off, to get into shape, and to, have you hounding him about it for 4 years?
That's been the most difficult part, I'm sure. But he really has. I mean, everybody that I talked to, I've never really, knock on wood, I've never really had the problem. Never tried to lose weight in my life. Okay, I walk just so I can eat what I want to eat. And I am back up to answer your question. I'm doing about 2.5 miles now. I'm not back up to 5 or 6 like I've done in the past. But losing the weight is the most difficult thing. Now remembering that you've lost it and be more explosive, be more aggressive, and be more focused is the part that's been a struggle for him.
are you confident that that'll click for him this year, that explosion?
We'll see. You know, it's something that some guys pick up quickly, but he knows. I mean, you know, in the national championship game, he's 1 for 8, and every one of them, he could have been more explosive, and it might have helped him.
You know, that being said, is it maybe he might not get it, that's just not his game?
Could be. You know, I don't think we'll ever know. But he's been really, really important to us in some big-time wins. I mean, the game at Duke last year, I thought he was outstanding and had some big-time games for us. His passing, his rebounding. It's just got to be a little more explosive so he can be more of a scorer for you. And if you're more explosive, because when he gets his hands on it, he has wonderful hands. He gets his hands on it, he's got a chance to get that rebound, but he does need to be more explosive.
Coach, who are you looking to take on the leadership role for this team?
As I said a few minutes ago, the 3 seniors have done a nice job, but those 3 juniors are good role models too, and everybody listens to what they say. Nobody's at the level of Marcus yet, but you're hoping that you see that. You know, I was sitting here in fall of 2005, and I kept saying, boy, I think David Noel's got a chance to be a big-time leader. I had no idea that he was going to be as good as he was, and he was off the charts, one of the 3 best leaders I've ever been around. And Marcus would be in that range also, but I think that we'll have to see who's going to do it and who's going to handle the adversity and get everybody to understand next play, next game, next game, next game, instead of wallowing around in something that was difficult.
Roy, Isaiah didn't even consider leaving school, didn't go through the pre-draft process that a couple of you guys went through. What was your reaction to that? What do you think that says about kind of just his enthusiasm for his senior year?
I was surprised by it. I said, Isaiah, it doesn't mean we were running you out. You know, I just want you to sign this paper. I'd already completed it for him. All he had to do was write his name in. And he didn't want to do that. He said, Coach, I don't think you should try to do that unless you're 100% sure that's what you're going to do. And that's not, I'm 100% sure I'm staying in school. I want to get my degree. I want to keep playing. And so, surprise. But, you know, we've been, some other coaches have used this, that recruiting that I handcuff them and don't let them leave. And it's far, far from the truth, but it's because Tyler Hansbrough and Tyler Zeller stayed around for all 4 years. But Tyler Hansbrough said, Coach, I'm going to win a national championship before I leave. And Tyler Zeller, the educational part was so important to him. But with Isaiah, it's just that he's enjoying what he's doing, and he knows he's going to be all right later on.
Have you seen Justin make adjustments after having gone through that process? Is he a different player?
No, but I think it was good for him. I think it's okay to get as much information as you can. I talked to 21 different teams myself. I think there's only 30, you know, but I talked to 21 different teams, GM, player personnel, head scout or something about all the guys, and do that every year. But I think he's, after he came back, he and I sat down and we talked about some things that were really important, and I think he's focused on those.
What have you seen from Theo in his first few weeks of practices that maybe you didn't see last year?
I hadn't seen him in this press conference yet. It's the first day. But, we still got a few more minutes.
Oh, he moved it.
Yeah, he's still trying to find it. I think he's tremendous attitude, wonderful kid, one I really enjoy coaching, and I think he's really worked hard, particularly on his shot, much more so than he has anything in the past.
You mentioned important things with Justin. Obviously, the consistency is something you'll really need from him this year. But what was that one of them? What were the other things that you talked to him about that you want to see from him in this more important role this year?
Well, the ball going in, that's what you're talking about. I'm assuming the consistency, because 29% from 3 is weird, because every time he shoots it, I think he's going in. I really do. And so I think the ball going in the basket, but I want him to be more aggressive, get to the free throw line more. And at the same time, this year, probably for Justin and Theo, we're going to ask them to take more of that missed rebounding load with Bryce being gone, that those 2 guys have got to rebound the basketball more.
Coach, can you get me up to speed on Aaron Rowan?
Yes. Have you released that yet?
I did.
Okay.
Today.
I'm glad I forgot to tell you.
Yes, sir.
We announced that Aaron yesterday had made the team. He was on the JV team, and I almost cut him at the end of practice because I told him before practice he'd made the team and he got hurt. And so he was a lot better player before he was on the team, but He gives us another body inside with the big guys. He really did a great job on the JV team of going to the backboards. CB said he'll drive our guys crazy because he goes to the boards every time. You'll be yelling at the guys to box him out, box him out. He's a good student. The guys were very happy for him yesterday when I told him he made it.
Roy, with Isaiah, foul trouble is something we've talked about a lot for years. What's the key component to making this shift where that's not such an issue for him?
Well, I'm hoping that he is going to make the shift. I've talked to him more often about being the second guy that jumps. You know, don't jump first because that's a pump fake. Now you get in foul trouble. Be the second guy that jumps. And big guys, I've probably emphasized to him more than this group, more than any group ever, is big guys should never make any fouls below their waist. You know, don't just get silly fouls. And then on the offensive end, don't make silly, illegal screen fouls or anything like that. But, I mean, I wanted him to play more minutes than he did last year. But I wanted him at the end of the game really something because he could block a shot, he could take a charge, he could do some of those things. And this year I'd like him in the game at the start and the end.
Or do you see this team as maybe being more balanced offensively since there's no kind of clear-cut scoring leader coming in?
Keep thinking I'm going to sneeze, but maybe we'll fight it off. You know, we were pretty balanced last year, except the focus had to be Bryce and Marcus. You know, Joel was in double figures. Kennedy was close to double figures. Isaiah was close to double figures. Theo could score it sometimes, but I think Joel and Justin will probably take the load early, or Isaiah, you know, because we'll give him plenty of chances. But I hope we have 6 or 7 guys that average around double figures too.
Your 2 national title teams, you had junior point guards who really grew a lot from their sophomore and junior years. Where do you see Joel in that process of growing from his sophomore year to his junior year? And is he kind of at that level or close to that level those guys were?
You know, it's hard to compare those guys because Raymond really did some significant changes in his shot. You can go back and look. His sophomore year, the first year with me, 29, 30% from 3, and the next year, like 45, because he changed his shot. Ty wasn't really much because he was really a big-time player as a sophomore, and just we were so focused on Tyler Hansbrough that all of a sudden Danny's better and Wayne's better and Ty's better, than the scoring was split so much. And, Ty was such an effective weapon even on the defensive end of the floor. I think he still holds the record for most steals in the finals. So he changed his game a little bit as well. I think Joel's just got to keep doing what he's doing right now, and he's been more aggressive offensively, which I want him to do because he shoots the ball so well. And I think that's where you'll see him. I don't know how many threes he shot last year, but wasn't he our leading three-point shooter percentage-wise?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. And so I still want him to do that again too. Put a little pressure on Steve. I don't want him to feel comfortable over